So, Angela, I'm going to let you and Heath have a conversation for a little bit, and you could introduce Heath to everyone. And Heath is a member of our design team. He gets to actually design away a lot of the new features work, and he's going to help give us kind of an overview of some of the new things and point out some of the cool stuff inside of there. So I'm going to let you guys talk for a bit.
Well, hey, Heath, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Angela?
Doing good. I'm glad you could join us today.
Glad to be here.
So we'd love to know a little bit about what your thoughts were and the changes that you made to the UI, the user interface in Mylio Photos to make it easier for people to use. If you want to share your screen and point out some of the changes and a bit of the why behind it, we'd love to know.
Oh, sure.
Or Angela could share her screen.
I can share my screen too if that's easier.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
If you want to pull it up, that's fine. Yeah, so there were some, basic UI redesign stuff that we wanted to do whenever I first joined Mylio. UX is more than just UI. It is also evaluating the user experience as a whole. So we're also looking at the way that the people use the application, the journeys they go on, and their understanding and how intuitive it is, right? So one of the big things that we did new with Mylio when I came on board was we really started doing a lot of user testing. And based off of that user testing, we started the redesign process of a lot of the UI components. So you're going to see some of this stuff already in this latest release. Unfortunately, we can't redesign all of Mylio all at once and just put it out, right? So you're going to see this slight transition of things. And there were a lot of things that went into the decision processes, like what those changes would be. Primarily, the things that we were wanting to focus on were things like accessibility. Our older UI, the font sizes are a little smaller and harder for some people to read. Our color contrast is another big thing. Having the contrast high enough that you can actually see your iconography and your fonts is important to be able to read our labels and know where you are in the UI. So we started that kind of with a rebranding process. You will also see some of the colors changing gradually to our new brand colors. It's probably strange to see some of our old colors in there, but we are getting around to it. So those are the primary focuses, like what do we do to make this more accessible, readable, and everything like that. So you'll see already in this new release, some of the iconography has been changed and some of the contrasts have been highlighted to make it more readable. The other thing we also want to do was to start going back to some of the UX basics on the redesign. And so the things that we wanted to look at was like, how do we make Mylio more intuitive? So there's been a lot of people that, from our user testing that are like confused as to like how to navigate Mylio to begin with. You're going to see this overall gradual change in the structure of Mylio to be what we call information architecture, to be more of a standardized pattern or common pattern in information architecture that people are used to. Things like menus at the top. And in the upper right corner, we have our iconography to do our global things. And then as we break those down into different views or whatever, it follows a structured pattern and people find, the icons and the buttons where they expect to find them, right? So you're going to see these gradual changes. I'm sure that Angela and everybody out there that's helping with the help documentation are going to be updating all this as we change it. So we're not going to leave you in the dark or anything like that. But the point of all of this is we're trying to follow best practices. So hopefully most of this will be intuitive from a UI perspective. Okay. Go ahead.
So that's all great. I really love the higher contrast icons, and they do make a little bit more sense. Some people may have noticed that activities and notifications have been separated out. That's one of those changes. I saw somebody comment about the higher contrast and saying and the better font, and I don't have to bring out my reading glasses to use Mylio. That is a good thing. We want that.
That's right. Another big part of that is that we're trying to move more towards a mobile first design and also a touch first design, because right now, I'm sure people have heard like, oh, this is for a desktop and this is for a mobile device. Well, those lines are getting blurred because even our laptops and our computer screens now are touch. So as we progress and in the future, that's just going to be more and more the case. My younger son and my daughters, they all have Android tablets, and Chromebooks, and they don't even use the keyboards hardly at all, like on those laptops. They just are constantly touching the screen. So I think in the future, we're going to definitely focus on that touch first aspect. And in that, by doing so, you will see like the higher contrast, the bigger iconography, more space, more readable content, because that's part of mobile first, touch first design. You'll actually be able to touch your icon without touching another icon by accident, right?
That's always a good thing. Especially, you get your fingers on there on a tiny device. It can get challenging.
That's right.
One thing I really like is that moving, especially between a computer, laptop, desktop to laptop to a tablet, the UI is virtually indistinguishable. Now, I know somebody was commenting in the chat earlier, I don't use a tablet as Mylio for me. Absolutely. So what we're doing on a tablet is going to translate to your computer, and in many cases also to your phone. The phone layout is a little bit different just because we're working with such a small screen, but can you tell us a little bit about how you manage to get everything on there? Susan, I think we're hearing you.
Hi, Susan.
But yeah, how do you fit all of this great functionality onto a tiny device like a phone?
Yeah, so that's just it. So we call it mobile first design. And the idea was basically anything that we develop on a phone first, we start with the smallest viewport, which is usually the smallest phones we support. We look at the screen and we design for that first. There's no reason we can't use those same UI components at desktop. Okay, so that's where you're going to see this transitioning happening. As we replace our components in our design system and our UI library, you'll see these nice, big, fat, juicy buttons that you can touch on and that are easy to use. And again, those same components will start to replace our desktop components. And while it may seem kind of weird to have larger buttons and stuff, we know that doesn't prevent anybody from using desktop application at all. And again, if they're using touch desktop application or touch laptop, they need to be able to still touch those components, right? So you're going to see this transition to that touch component design library. Very
cool. Now, do you use Mylio Photos for your own image library? I hope so.
I do.
Awesome. What are some of your favorite things about the app? What really gets you excited about crafting the future of this app?
I'd say hands down for me, the fact that I don't have to worry about downloading my photos. I've got Mylio set up that it just automatically moves my photos over to my vault. After it's nice to have the originals on my phone for like maybe a month, but then after a month, I don't want my space on my phone to fill up, and it just automatically just moves things there for me and my wife and my family. We all just have everything just moving off of our devices so that it constantly frees up our devices. And there's not this like, oh, how do I sync up to move this stuff to a folder to, have to manually go in and copy stuff over. And we don't have to do any of that. It just happens like magic. So I think that's probably my biggest feature that I really love about Mylio. My wife, she was actually using Mylio and she was trying to pull up a photo of something and she couldn't remember what it was she was looking for. And she typed in like, what was it? Oh, I think it was a kitchen remodel. And we had basically redone tiles in our kitchen. So she wanted to do a before and after photo. So she typed in like tile, and we hadn't, marked anything as tile or anything like that. No keywords, anything. So I was like, I don't know if that'll work, but she put it in and boom, all these photos popped up because the packaging in the photo said tile, and Mylio picked that up.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. That is really cool. The OCR text recognition in Mylio Photos, it continues to surprise me in what it finds. One of the funniest for me was I was doing a demo last week and I had tagged a couple of photos of a dog. So I'm like, okay, let me show you how it now finds dogs. And I typed in dog and it pulled up a picture of my cat on a bookshelf where he wasn't supposed to be. And I was looking at the bookshelf and I zoomed in to be like, okay, how did it find dog here? And dog was in the title of one of the books on my bookshelf. And it was just remarkable to me what it found. So really, really cool stuff. Let's see, is there anything else that you want to share with us about what you're imagining for the future, anything that any other tidbits that you want to share?
Sure. Like, you know, we're like I said, changing major pieces of the app at a time. You know, we just introduced dedupe, which is a big design. We're focusing next on search and filter. We have very powerful tools for search and filter. Unfortunately, they're a little difficult to use for most users. So you're going to see me really dive in, do a ton of user testing. We're going to create some really cool user search and filter tools that hopefully everybody can use, along with even more advanced tools that allow more advanced users to do more advanced things. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's an important piece of a photo management tool, is to be able to get to the photos that you want to work on and be able to keep them on your desktop while simultaneously searching for other photos and modifying things. So yeah, that's one of the big features coming forward that we're going to be pushing out, hopefully not too far away.
And I just want to point out
really
before we transition off of that, so people know what we mean by testing. We also have a great community, community.mylio.com. And so we post surveys there, we get feedback. And from time to time, we also have invitations to look at features as part of a beta test group or to give feedback. And we do that. We also did that with dedupe. We invited people from the forum community in to test those features. So that does directly shape the tool. And Heath, I love, I've seen you as the designs have evolved. Sometimes things change over time because it looks good, it feels good. But then when you put all the factors together and people are trying to do these complex tasks, we discover that sometimes it needs to be easier. So, I'll just give an example, if you don't mind, as Angela queues up the next guest. We dramatically improve the onboarding process. That's the process that happens when you bring people in. How many times did that get tested and tweaked to make it as easy as possible, Heath, for people to import their photos and get set up first?
Yeah, that was like over 150 user tests.
Yeah, so 150 different people went through and tweaks and feedback and language. And that's where we learned about making linking folders easier, that lots of people already had hard drives with pictures and they were really emphatic about wanting to link to them. So you'll now see that linking is the #1 choice in the menu, because if that's what most people want to do, it should be the first thing that you see. And that's an example of design evolving because of feedback and test, right?
That's exactly right. We want to become a user-centric, user-first app product.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Heath, thank you so much for sharing some of that insight to how things are done. Angela, you're about to talk to another member of our test team, right? I think Andrew is going to join you.
Andrew is up next.